Functional groups are sets of atoms that are attached to carbon skeletons. So there's a lecture about carbon and why it's special and how it makes those skeletons. And when you attach these different functional groups, it gives those skeletons different characteristics, making different molecules. So these are the functional groups you need to know. There's 2 slides of this. One group is called the hydroxyl group. So it's an oxygen and a hydrogen. So you can remember that hyd is like the hydrogen, oxyl is like the oxygen. The R's on here just mean other part of the molecule. So this hydroxyl group is found in alcohols and also in sugars. I mean, it can be found in other groups as well, but those are 2 of the classic groups where you'll see those. A characteristic of hydroxyl groups is that it's polar, and that makes it hydrophilic. Hydro is water, philic or phile is lover. So what this means is that it interacts well with water. It can bind, it can interact with water and stick to it, which means that hydroxyl groups will be near the water. It'll mean these groups dissolve in water. Polar means that it has partial charges, so some parts positive, some part negative. So does water, and that's why they can stick together, the partial positives and negatives. Carboxyl groups have a carbon double bonded to an oxygen, and that carbon bonded to an OH group. Now I know it looks like a hydroxyl on there, but it's actually different because when you get all 4 of these together, they don't behave the same way as hydroxyls. So carboxyls are important in amino acids, which are the building blocks of proteins. They're important in fatty acids, which are the parts of lipids, specifically fats and phospholipids. And they're important in nucleic acids, which are DNA and RNA. Carboxyl groups are negatively charged. This attracts positive charges and repels negative charges, because remember, opposite charges attract, like charges repel. So this helps to fold proteins. So if it's a positive part and a negative part, those can stick together. And also this negative characteristic of our carboxyls helps hold DNA shape together. That double helix you might have heard about. It holds the middle of that ladder together. 3 other groups you need to know are the Amino Group, which is a nitrogen attached to 2 hydrogens. We see this in amino acids. That's where part of the name comes from. Again, that's the building block of proteins. And we also see these in nucleic acids. Again, that's DNA and RNA. Carboxyl groups were negatively charged. Amino groups are positively charged. So it's the opposite. It attracts negative and repels positive. These also help fold proteins. Again, if there's positive and negatives, they can stick together. And it also holds the DNA shape. So along with the carboxyls, which are negative, the amino groups, which are positive, they can help stick together that DNA ladder. Sulfhydro groups are a sulfur attached to a hydrogen. That name makes sense. They are specifically in a certain amino acid called cysteine, and this amino acid makes up proteins, so you see it in proteins. This sulfhydryl can bond with other sulfhydryls and helps fold proteins. So you see this as a theme. All these kind of groups can help fold proteins into specific shapes. And then lastly, for you to know, is the phosphate group, which is the phosphorus attached to some oxygens and those attached to some hydrogens. So we see this in ATP. The TP means triphosphate, so there are 3 phosphate groups in ATP. That's a high energy molecule in the cell that can be used to do cellular work. We also see phosphate in nucleic acids, that's DNA and RNA. And this is a negatively charged group, which makes nucleic acids negatively charged. It attracts positive, repels negative, and this is the part that makes ATP high energy, because there's 3 phosphates that are negative, negative, negative next to each other. They repel. So it makes that ATP unstable, and unstable molecules have high energy. So those are the 5 functional groups that you need to know, some basic characteristics, and the molecules that they're found in.